Let me tell you something. I am actually a big fan of horror, or at least horror adjacent media. You know, you got your movies, books, creepypastas on the internet, those kinds of things. But there's a certain magic that makes video games special when used for horror. Is that you're part of it. You are experiencing it from a personal point of view. But you know, over time your brain just sort of gets used to it. Stuff that make you look under your bed, to be sure, just became cliche, overused, boring, or all of the above. But recently I've come across a small indie game. A game that made me feel uneasy and anxious. A game that brought me back to a time where I felt too scared to actually progress in said game. A game that sticks with you long after you play it. Ladies and germs, this is Fear and Hunger. Wait, no, I can't use that. Anyways, there's a certain allure to things that make you uncomfortable. You hate it, but you can't stop looking. That's what this game has become to me. It's by far the worst game I have ever played, in a good way. Even before you start the game or even buy it, you're greeted by these lovely warnings. If you're triggered by any of this, you should probably click something more wholesome. You know, this happy painting surely doesn't look too happy. And then there's the title screen. You'll certainly find the most striking is this man. His swordsmanship skills certainly leave something to be desired. So you start up a new save and pick the next victim of the dungeons. You have the choice between mercenary, knight, male woman, and... Hold on, don't I know you from somewhere? Each character obviously has different skills and equipment they start out with. By far the best for beginners are these two. Hey, remember that dude from the beginning? Well, he's the whole reason you're here in the dungeons, with every selectable character having a reason to reach him in his imprisonment. Now, I'll admit, I learned a lot about the game before trying it out for myself, so I somewhat knew what to do. Thank you very much, Super Eye Patch Wolf. If you are outside, some dogs literally mauled you to death, so that's pretty. What you're going to learn is that you're going to die a lot. Like, a lot. Like it's not even funny sometimes. I actually had my first death in here by getting scratched, infected, and then dying like 2 minutes later. From the amount of times you'll be seeing the title screen, you could almost consider it a roguelike. This game was not meant to be played as any other RPG. Every encounter has the possibility of ending your run entirely. You're going to learn that not every fight is worth picking, and that your resources are very, very limited. And the fights that you do win, you don't really get much of anything besides the privilege to stay alive until your next encounter. Also, one really noticeable thing is that the game will tell you jack about its mechanics when played normally. And that'll be your biggest obstacle in the entire game, the fact that you don't know everything. I mean, like, what the hell is that? Or what does that mean? Your lack of information really serves to enhance the horror of your situation. But of course, it doesn't mean that you have to go completely blind. The information, the clues are there, but you really have to search them on your own. For example, there's Sir Seymour in the starting area of the game, which gives you some useful survival tips. He lets you know about the importance of guarding certain attacks. There are also various books that tell you what different stuff means. And if you're really paying attention, you'll notice that certain body parts of an enemy flash when using an attack, and destroying said parts prevents the attack completely. But honestly, if you're too impatient to figure that out on your own, or you're just a scaredy cat like me, you could just use the wiki and make your experience less miserable. Speaking of miserable, I am prepared to talk about probably the second thing this game is most known for, the luck factor. Basically, some events like certain enemy attacks, you could block these. The items you get from a certain bookshelf, saving on a risky area, they can trigger a coin flip, in which the game makes you do exactly that. If you win, the enemy will miss that attack, or you can get a really good item out of that bookshelf. Alternatively, you can get nothing, or you die from the attack. Though not based entirely on luck, the difficulty of a run can be affected severely by what you find or don't find within the dungeon. The uncertainty of your supplies works to further amplify the anxiety you feel. You can't waste too much of your time because you know your supplies are limited. Do you risk getting into a fight with an enemy and possibly burning through more of your supplies in order to get something good? Or do you continue as is and save your resources so that one item might help you immensely on a different encounter? The fact that you're actively and constantly fighting for your survival in the dungeons is what I feel makes Fear and Hunger a memorable experience. But of course, the game isn't without its faults. For one, it has a lot of bugs that range from being mildly inconvenient to game breaking entirely. For one, I had a really good start in one of my playthroughs with some really good items, only for the stupid game to freeze, meaning I had to close my game and surrender my items. Also, I find some of the depictions of the more sensitive topics to be for the most part unnecessary, and it comes off as just lazy shock content. Matter of fact, I'm actually playing a censor mod that removes the nudity altogether. And though it doesn't bother me, YouTube strike team might get me if I show it here. So anyway, back to the story. After you survive the horrors of the prison, caverns, mines, and obtaining the game cube from this village of blue people here, you descend even further down and find who you're looking for. Or rather, his corpse. I'm pretty sure this is what most first-time players come across when reaching this point. The man, also known as the guard, will already be dead once you reach him if you take more than 30 minutes, not counting the menu time. From here on out, you can live with your life and suffer some PTSD, or you can descend even further into the darkness. With the cube you got earlier in your hands, you can reach Mahav, the city of the gods. And to progress, you have to battle the previous new gods. Let me clarify a little the difference between old and new gods. The old gods were basically primordial eldritch entities that left the world, letting humans the chance to ascend to godhood, in theory. The new gods are actually just lesser deities compared to their primordial predecessors, in the end with the power to change the world for only a few years before losing influence and, well, you just get stuck in this random ass hole forever. You yourself have the capability of becoming a new god, and I don't know, I never went for these endings. Luckily, we have Girl in our party. We find her in the first level and she's probably the weakest recruitable character, but also the best character in this entire game. You can trade her for Pocket Cat for some really good items, but like, why would you? You monster. I've only had her in my party for less than a minute, but if anything happened to her, I would kill everything in this dungeon and then my You can find these weird growth things/organs on 3 sections around the dungeon. If you cut them up and go back to the cave-dwelled village, you'll find this freaky creature with his mouth open. Being the responsible parent that you are, your first instinct is to jump straight into its mouth, along with your daughter. Turns out this creature is actually an elder god, the god of the depths, and seems to be the source of the darkness corrupting everything in the dungeon. Inside, you'll find the hardest area of the entire game, the gauntlet. Once you reach the end of the gauntlet into the heart of the darkness, something happens to the girl. She starts tweaking the frick out, like it's something out of The Exorcist, and oh no. What is that? You're witnessing the birth of a new god. The girl was merely its vessel this whole time. You, being the simple meatbag that you are, would die an agonizing death just witnessing the powers at play here. Winning here is completely impossible. So, instead of letting you suffer, with the little humanity the newborn god has left, she does you a final act of kindness by letting you die peacefully. It's a bittersweet ending, but this one is actually counting to the second game, which I'll play someday. There's also the S endings, which you have to do in a harder difficulty, which I will also attempt someday. But for now, that's where I'll leave it. Fear and Hunger, to me, it's an outstanding horror game. I know this video wouldn't cover everything there is to the game, but if you are curious to peek into the dark and don't mind the sensitive topics, I couldn't recommend it more. And that's where I'll leave it. See you later.